Fernando Alonso just did something that no one saw coming. During a private test in Barcelona, he pushed the new AMR26 beyond every limit. And the data? It didn't just surprise Aston Martin. It caught the attention of Adrian Newey himself. We're talking about sector times. That broke simulation models, deployment curves, that defied expected behavior, and a 44-year-old driver, doing things the car wasn't even designed for. Now the paddock is asking the same question. Is Alonso about to lead Aston Martin into a title fight? Stay until the end, because the final numbers prove something that could shock Red Bull, destroy predictions, and change everything for 2026. It started like any other private test. Quiet, low profile, just a shakedown at Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. No cameras, no headlines, just one car, one driver, and a brand new engine built for a brand new era. But something changed, fast, because within just a handful of laps, Fernando Alonso was doing things that didn't line up with the numbers. Aston Martin's engineers had run the sims. They knew the limits of the AMR26, or at least, they thought they did. But Alonso wasn't following the predictions. He was breaking them. Sector 2, where energy management is critical under the new hybrid format, should have been his weakest link. Instead, it became his strongest. He wasn't just quick, he was consistent. Lap after lap, his throttle trace stayed razor thin. Perfect delivery, minimal correction, zero loss in traction zones, and most shockingly, his hybrid deployment was syncing so smoothly with corner exits that engineers assumed something was wrong with the data. But it wasn't. Alonso wasn't driving the car hard. He was driving it exactly, balancing electric boost with mechanical grip, rolling on power at just the right moment to trick the car into behaving like it had a more advanced control unit than it actually did. And then came the moment that really changed everything. On lap 11, after a full run with race fuel levels, he delivered a time that was 0.3 faster than what the model said was even possible. With tire wear, on a cooling track, with no DRS, no push laps, no qualifying mode, just pure, efficient, controlled pace. The garage went silent, then erupted, and that's when word started spreading. Someone from the technical team sent a quiet summary of the lap data up the chain. Within the hour, Red Bull's advanced performance group had seen it. Within 2, Adrian Newey requested the full breakdown, not just out of curiosity, out of concern. When Adrian Newey pays attention, the paddock listens. This is the man who built dominance. Williams in the 90s, McLaren with Häkkinen, Red Bull with Vettel, and now Red Bull with Verstappen. He doesn't chase headlines. He chases anomalies. And Alonso's data? It wasn't just good. It was wrong. Wrong in the way that scares top engineers, because it meant either the sim was flawed, or Alonso had just revealed something. Even Red Bull hadn't cracked yet. Newey asked for a full overlay, corner entry delta, throttle modulated deployment, energy release curves per gear, everything. And what he saw was stunning. A car with known limitations, a longer wheelbase, unconventional airflow, and a simplified cooling concept, behaving with the efficiency of a Red Bull RB19, but without the same aero platform. It didn't make sense until he factored in the driver, because Newey, more than anyone, understands how rare it is for a driver to drive beneath the limit, to manipulate a car's balance, not with grip, but with flow. That's what Alonso had done. He'd identified a sinking flaw between the hybrid system and the rear suspension. He didn't fight it. He worked with it. His driving style, normally aggressive, sharp, calculated, was suddenly smoother, slower, more intelligent. Newey realized this wasn't just about raw performance. This was about drivability. And the AMR26 in Alonso's hands was behaving like a car, with 20 more laps of data than it should have. A car that was learning before the engineers had even told it how. And that, for someone like Newey, is not just interesting, it's dangerous. Because if Aston Martin can find a way to translate that drivability into upgrades, if they can refine what Alonso just unlocked and turn it into something the car can repeat, no matter who's driving, then Red Bull may not be alone at the top for much longer. The moment Fernando Alonso stepped out of the car, the energy in the garage shifted. Not excitement, not celebration, confusion, because what the engineers were looking at did not match the model they spent months building. The AMR26 was designed to be a transitional platform, a base for development under the new 2026 hybrid rules. Nothing radical, a bit of a risk on packaging, a tighter cooling strategy, a longer wheelbase to stabilize rear instability under Reagan. But what Alonso just delivered was more than stable. It was controlled aggression. The numbers showed it. Lap after lap, the rear axle behavior stayed within optimal thermal range, even under high-speed compression loads. That wasn't supposed to happen. Even with Alonso's skill, they expected heat spikes, sudden lockups, low-speed instability. Instead, the car responded like it already knew how to manage its energy flow, and the hybrid deployment perfectly synced. So the engineers did what any top team would do. They shut the laptop, pulled the raw files, and went hunting for the catch. Something had to explain it. Driver trick? Surface grip? Wind variation? Nothing. No tricks. No weather advantage. No underweight run. Alonso had driven the car exactly within the parameters it was designed for, and made it look like they'd already run 3 updates. Even telemetry from drag and resistance curves showed smoother load transitions than any of their projected models. That's when the lead performance engineer looked at the data and asked one question. What if we're 2 months ahead of schedule and we didn't even realize it? Suddenly, the team wasn't thinking about testing anymore. They were thinking about Bahrain, about race 1, and about whether the AMR26 just became more than a foundation. If Alonso could extract that from an early prototype, what happens when the first upgrade hits? What happens when the wind tunnel confirms what the track just revealed? Aston Martin knows the answer, and they're already working on it, because for the first time, they're not chasing the front. They're about to join it. Within hours of Alonso's test run, files were moving, privately, quietly, through encrypted channels. Red Bull's aero department requested full-speed trap overlays. Ferrari's simulator team ran a fresh correlation. And Mercedes, already on the defensive from regulatory heat, suddenly had a new concern. The AMR26 might be real, because up until now, everyone assumed Aston Martin would fall behind. Not enough factory backing, not enough hybrid expertise, not enough wind tunnel data. But what Alonso just proved has nothing to do with facilities or funding. It's about execution and feel, because no simulator in the world could have predicted the feedback loop Alonso created between the hybrid drive and the rear axle response. He wasn't driving a concept, he was driving a solution, and the data showed it. That's why Red Bull took notice. Not because they think the AMR26 is faster, not yet, but because if Alonso can find tenths in that car before the first race weekend, it means Aston Martin is no longer running behind the curve. They're defining it. Ferrari's concern is different. Their 2026 package is rumored to focus on peak deployment over sustained balance. But if Alonso's test proves anything, it's that the next generation of pace won't come from peak bursts. It will come from harmony, torque, timing, tire preservation, system balance. And right now, Aston Martin has all 4, without showing their full spec. As for Mercedes, they're watching in silence, still under pressure from protests, still managing internal tension. After a year of political chaos, and now they have to answer a brutal question. Is Aston Martin about to do what they couldn't? Build a car that works on day 1 and make Alonso its weapon. Because if Bahrain confirms what Barcelona started, this season's balance of power won't be decided by the factory giants. It'll be decided by a veteran driver who just found a car that finally listens to him. And this time, he's not here to play nice. Inside Aston Martin's Silverstone base, something has changed. You can feel it. The way the engineers walk, the way the meetings are run, the way the word podium has quietly been replaced with something else. Contender. Because for the first time since launching the ARM project, Aston Martin believes it, not just in the car, but in what it represents. The AMR26 is no longer just a platform for learning. It's a signal that they can stand on their own, that they don't need to copy Red Bull's aero philosophy, that they don't need to wait for 2027 to become relevant. Not when Alonso just proved that the ceiling on this car might be even higher than they hoped. And the driver at the center of it all? He's not surprised. He's been here before. He's seen how a good car evolves. He knows when the numbers lie and when they don't. He knows when a team is bluffing and when a team has as something real. In the private debrief, after Barcelona testing, Alonso reportedly leaned in, looked across the table at his engineers, and said just one sentence: "You've built something special. Now let me finish it." That's all they needed to hear, because when a two-time world champion, with 2 decades of experience, tells you this car can fight, you don't plan for 4th place. You start asking what it will take to win the whole thing. The rest of the grid is watching. Red Bull is watching. Newey is watching. And everyone heading to Bahrain knows one thing for certain: if the AMR26 performs even half as well under race pressure as it did with Alonso behind the wheel, this season isn't going to follow the script. It's going to be rewritten by a team no one expected, and a driver who never left.